Yo, yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Akoye Knows Boxing. I'm back once again. Um, I'll give you guys some time to join up. I feel a little better. Last time y'all talked to me, I think I was under the weather, but I was still jumping on, man. I still have fun with it. Today we ain't gonna be too long, but I want to talk about a couple of upcoming fights. I also want to discuss the impact of Turkey, Alalshikh. I always mess his name up. I call him Alakash. You know how I am with names, man. But he said, "Happy Thursday, hello everyone. What's up, Daniel Barry Sports Highlights? How you, Brody? You know what I mean? It's really a thing, man. A lot of people, I hear a lot of different opinions when it comes to Turkey and what he's doing. But first thing I'm going to talk about is a fight that's coming up on one of his cards. I think it's November, October 25th or November 25th. I got to check. But I'm bad with dates too. But Benavidez is fighting Yard. Yard or Yardy. Yardy is a bona fide uh, uh, light heavyweight. I think that's going to be a fight that is going to tell me what Benavidez is at the light heavyweight division, because I get a lot of criticism for my take on Benavidez's power not carrying up to light heavy after watching how he fought Gavazic. But there was a reason I said that, because Gavazic is traditionally a boxer puncher. He's not even really a puncher. He's just a boxer, right? And he has some punch resistance, obviously, but when we watched guys who truly are in the light heavyweight division, like Beterbiev, fight him, you can see that Beterbiev's punches and punching power was able to affect Gavazic by the end of that fight, and he was able to get him out of here. Although Gavazic looked like the rounds that he wasn't getting clipped in, he was doing quite well. Well, with Benavidez, he didn't really. Gavazic did okay, but he didn't really win any rounds. Benavidez hit him probably a lot more, I'd say, with anything he wanted to than Beterbiev did. And obviously, we know Benavidez doesn't have Beterbiev power at light heavy, but he does at 68. He does at 60. You don't want to get hit by Benavidez. Although he's never been like a one punch, quick twitch, knockout, explosive puncher, he's a Gatling gun. And when he hits you, you can tell that a lot of guys that he was fighting were worse for wear. People don't like the weight bully conversation, but Benavidez's frame is bigger or just as big as a Beterbiev. I think he's taller and bigger than Beterbiev. But he's able to, because of his lack of muscle mass, to shrink down to 168, 160, maybe even 154 at one point if he wanted to, right? So that allows him to have a power, a punch resistance advantage and a punching power advantage against guys who may be naturally walking around at 180, 175, who can get down to 168, 160, whereas he can walk around easily, cruiserweight, 200 pounds or more, even heavyweight, and get down freakishly to 168, right? He started off his career when he was, I think he's 12, not his career, but um, his boxing tutelage. He's probably 240 pounds, somewhere in there. He's a big kid. So just like Cotto was big too, and then just get down. Like he got his weight down. But anyway, when you look at the fight between him and Yard, I will give him, because of the criticism, I will give him an asterisk for the Gavazic fight. And I say, let's see what he does against Yard, because I like Yard. I liked what Yard did when I saw him against, I think, Beterbiev. I like Yard against Yard's just a guy that, to me, I think he fought Kovalev too. But Yard's a guy that, to me, he has everything you want in a fighter, but he's a lot like that Jean Pascal comparison I made before. He's a good boxer, a good fighter, should I say, not a good boxer, but a good fighter. But he's very heavy muscular, right? And he's explosive. He's a great athlete, but he tires out. So the things that he does in the first 8 rounds ain't what he does in the last 4. And he's been hit or miss when it comes to endurance. So I would be impressed if if Benavidez can come in there and take Yard to the yard. You know what I'm saying? So that'll be a good fight to watch, and it's on Riyadh season, which brings me to my main topic. Right, I'll talk about other fights that we have coming up too, but like Keith Thurman versus Fundora, I think that's Keith Thurman. I was looking at the picture that they took. Keith Thurman looked like, what the hell I signed up for, man? Because while he got his hands on, he had Buddy Naval. His belly button is above Thurman head. Like, boy, it's just Fendora's is a freak for 154. That's just weird that he can get down to that weight. He's another guy. Like, he's not a weight bully, but his frame He could easily carry his frame if you fed him and you give him a weight regimen. He could easily be a light heavyweight. Easily. He's just a big, wiry guy. But the fact that he's 6'6" and can get down to 154 is freakish. Like, where he must have no bone density. It's like, some people say they big boned it. He ain't. His bones is hollow. He probably float down the river, no problem, right? But anyway, that's gonna be a freak fight. But I'll get to that. But the main point that I wanted to discuss today, man, is our guy Turki Alalshikh, man. Um, Hold on a second. What's up? What's up, Sleazy? What's up, player? What's up, Paul? He said, I'm here for the class, huh? What's up, man? Yeah, the main thing I want to talk about is Turki Al-Sheikh and what he's gonna mean for boxing in the long run. Even though he fell ill, and he is ill a little bit, and he says, hey, that's the reason he has this passion to just make the best fights right now because he wants to see him while he's still here. He is a mortal man, right? But long after he's gone, I think the impact that he's having on boxing is creating a trend that's gonna carry long after he's gone. So his legacy, I think, will be here long after all of us are gone, just like I think Emmanuel Stewart's is today as well, that Crunk legacy, right? But the reason I speak to that is I'm a promoter here in Philly. A lot of people don't know that because I don't know what it is. Like the way I am, I don't promote a lot of things, even though I'm a promoter. I don't promote the things that I'm doing in different disciplines. Like if I'm talking about football, I don't usually bring up the boxing channel, and I probably should. I actually have a YouTube channel for football called Akoye Media. People can watch that if you're interested in football analysis and breakdowns. But while I'm on that channel, I don't talk about boxing. And when I'm on off of both, I'm on Twitter talking about something else, but I don't talk about the fights that I'm promoting. People in Philadelphia know, but they don't. People in Philadelphia don't know I do these things. Get what I'm saying? So just very strange that way. I don't know why, but I need to start cross promoting everything that I do for sure. But here we go. When you're looking at what I do in Philadelphia, I said I wanted to get into promoting because the business of boxing. I know other promoters might get upset when I say this, but just like I am with content, I really don't care. Right? The business of boxing in Philadelphia was broken. There's a lot of people a lot of promoters who are using tickets to sell the fights, meaning they will give their fighters tickets to sell, and that's how they sell at the show. Meaning their show is only as good as the fighters who sell the tickets manually in Philadelphia. I'm talking about club promoters, hand to hand, selling tickets. Meaning I might give one fighter 50 tickets and that's his contract. He gets paid off of the tickets that he sells manually and vice versa with other fighters, right? So when you're doing it that way, if you come across a fighter who is a high ticket seller, right, as a promoter, it turns you into a gatekeeper by accident because this is capitalism. If you have a guy who's a ticket seller, you don't necessarily want to see him leave and go to the next level and grow beyond you because you need him to put asses in seats for you. So you either going to create contracts that tie him down so much that he can't make the fights that he wanted to make because other managers or advisors can't deal with him because you have 30% of his career in your hands, right? You have that, right? And then you have, hey, I don't necessarily want you to grow because if you grow, now I got to replace you with another fighter who may or may not be able to do what you do, right? That creates an automatic logjam when it comes to scalability for business. And me, in the way I looked at the game, thanks to my trainer, Sharav, who passed away. Timothy Tyler is his real name, but his Muslim name Sharav, right? He taught me that. Like he was a manager for a while, managed guys back in the day like Bobby Boogaloo Watts, the late Jimmy Young who Jimmy Young is the guy who retired George Foreman. Bobby Watts beat Marvin Hagler. So these are the types of guys that my trainer trained and managed, right? So my boxing know-how definitely comes from both him and in my family who grew up fighting. But I say all that to say we always talked about the way the business works here in Philadelphia and in boxing in general. When you have promoters who have to tie their success to their blue chip prospects that are coming through the ranks through them, you create a wall automatically because the promotion is done through the fighter's ability to sell. If you take that word promoter and you actually use it and wear the title as it's supposed to be worn, meaning you are the draw, not the fighter, meaning you're actually marketing, You're doing things that make people want to watch your product rather than the fighter themselves. It creates a whole different atmosphere because if people are showing up because I'm doing my job as a promoter and not because you're the fighter on the marquee, then guess what? Once you grow beyond me, I can continue to make business and make money when you're gone, right? I can't do that if I'm hitching my wagon to you, right? Can't do it. But we saw that in Philadelphia. And I say that to bring you to the grand or the macro view of this, which is on a global scale, which is what Turki Alalshikh is doing. It's funny that he comes along at a time when I come along promoting, right? Because he's doing the same thing with Riyadh season and Vegas. He fights, he promotes in other places, but he's doing the same thing. Meaning he's creating spectacles that people want to watch because of the brand that he's creating, not just because of the fighters, right? He's not using the fighters to sell. He's using the spectacle. He's obviously using the fighters to create a brand. Yes. He's paying them handsomely. Yes. And sometimes even taking a loss to do it because he understands it's not about the fighters themselves. It's about continuously creating a consistent product that's going to create a brand to a point where right now people are talking about Riyadh season when they talk about boxing. They say Riyadh season. They're not saying Anthony Joshua season. You know what I'm saying? It's not Floyd Mayweather season. It ain't Crawford season. It's Riyadh season. He's creating something that is bigger than the fighters themselves. Meaning, once that product is fully established, which is still growing, but once it's fully established, you'll have a spectacle that allows the fighters to grow by just sheer means of your own demographic, not the demographic they're bringing to you, but the one that you already have cultivated. Now, when you bring that or couple that with their own demographic and their following, it only grows because when they bring their following to you, they leave with it. Plus, they leave with something, some of what you already had, right, and some of what you brought to the table. So now they have. It behooves a fighter to want to fight on your cards because they're going to get more visibility. It behooves a fighter who can't sell tickets to fight on your cards because now he's going to get that visibility. He doesn't have to sell tickets. So that means he can make a card that just means it's a compelling fight to be had, even though this guy can't sell one ticket. Nobody knows his name. He could be the Clubber Lane or the Damian Anderson of today, right? Can't sell one ticket. Doesn't matter. Why? Because he already has a built-in cultivated demographic that will watch whatever he does anyway, right? He just need good fights. When you base your business model that way, I can already tell you, it pisses a lot of people off, number one. But in Turkey's case, it's a little different because the promoters all have to work together under him because he has an unlimited budget, which is great. I wish I had that. But it pisses a lot of promoters off because it creates an influencer marketing strategy, right, or style, where again, fighters will want to fight for you. Why? Because you're not hitting them with exclusive contracts where they're stuck with you. They can fight for you. They can go fight for somebody else. They can come back and fight for you, and it creates a relationship where we're doing good business. That the old boxing model disrespects and disregards the principles of good business. The principles of good business is every party, be a good middleman and make sure every party in the business transaction leaves happy as can be. That doesn't mean happy as hell, but happy as we all can be. That's what negotiation is. Hey, you get something, you're going to compromise on something, right? I'm compromising on something, but we're all going to leave as happy as we can be. Nobody's going to feel cheated here, right? You don't feel cheated when you do business with a Turki Alalshikh. Why? He's going to pay you what you ask for. And all he's asking is that you come as your best and give your best, right? And it's the same. And now fighters want to come fight for a promoter like that. Why? Because they know they can come and do what they do best, get paid like they're supposed to get paid, but they can also leave and do whatever the hell they want to do after that, right? You can't do that when you have a promoter that's saying, hey, I don't want to say, but Bob Arum, Top Rank, he said, hey, you can't fight those guys over at PBC. Guys over at PBC and say, hey, you can't fight those guys over at Golden Boy. Guys over at Golden Boy say, hey, you can't fight those guys over at Matchroom because we don't get along and we're not going to make enough money and we're going to fight about who gets the lion's share, who's the A side, who gets the. You have all these cold wars that go on in boxing, and that hurts the fan and it hurts the product because people who've been begging to watch certain fighters, they have to wait 5-10 years, not just because the promoters don't like each other, but they have to wait 5-10 years because the promoters have to wait for both of those fighters to become a real draw so that they actually can make the money that they have to put out to pay the fighters. Because if you don't understand the business is, a fighter has a purse that's bidded on, right? Meaning promoters can say, hey, they can go to a bank, they can go to a governing body, they can go to a city, they can go to a municipal, they can go to anybody who has the money, right? And say, hey, we can bid this out. Who wants to pay or invest in these fighters? I think of you think of the Thriller Manila. Don King went to the president in Zaire. I think it was Zaire, right? Don't quote me because I don't really remember. But I know he went to the pres. I think it's Zaire, right? And he asked him to put up the money for the fight, right? Meaning, can you pay George Foreman and can you pay Ali what they're asking for? And we'll throw the fight here and give you a lot of publicity. You get a lot of tourism, you get a lot of things out of it. Boom. That's what people generally do. Well, if they're doing that and you're not a draw, that's a hell of a ask, right? It's not when you have a situation where, again, you're creating a spectacle where there's an automatic ploy for the fight, and then you have a promoter in Turk who has an unlimited budget, right? That style of promoting is going to change boxing forever because it's treating boxing as a real business and not as a shyster, undercutting BS spectacle. And that's what it was business wise. The business product was a mirror. The product in the ring was a mirror of the underlying business practices. There was a lot of shade going on. Even factions like HBO, Showtime. You don't want certain fighters to win. Why? If you have, why Oscar De La Hoya used to always get crazy ass decisions because he is the face of your channel. If he's not a champion and he loses to a guy who just can fight better, I mean, like he loses to Ike Corte, right? Which was a close fight. But if he'd have lost to Ike Corte, what the hell are you gonna do with Ike Corte? I remember Joshua Cloudy. People were like, what are we gonna do with this guy? What do you do with the guys like Lucas Matisse or Marcos Maidana who beat your guys? That's like, remember Marcos Maidana beat Victor Ortiz? They're like, what the hell are we gonna do with Marcos Maidana? Yeah, he can fight, but he ain't filling those seats up. Oh, when Vernon Forrest, the late Vernon Forrest, he beat Shane Mosley. What the hell are we gonna do with Vernon Forrest? No disrespect to the dead, but what are we gonna do with that? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what was going on in boxing. So Turkey is changing the game, and he's changing the game in a major way because now it does not matter what your name is. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter who we are. Remember that? Bane. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter who we are. What matters is their mission and the vision that he has. And as I said, I look at myself as the micro version of him in the Philadelphia area, meaning I'm focused on just Philadelphia and promoting here, but he's doing what I'm doing globally. What I've done and what I've done here, just so you guys understand what I'm talking about. I started my promotional career last year, right? I threw a fight at the Met. It's a historic building here in Philadelphia. It was called Brave Hearts Knocking Out Violence. You can still find the fight on bxng.com. But it was on August 24th last year. I used influencer marketing to sell the fight rather than the fighters themselves. So the Grandy twins were on that card. Bryant Jennings was on that card and several others from Philadelphia. But I didn't need the fighters to sell the fight because I used Gillian Wallow. I partnered with them in order to use their influence and their marketing ability to put asses in seats and to sell streams, right? That took all the pressure off the fighters having to sell tickets. Now, one fighter had to sell tickets. Some of them requested to sell them because they wanted extra money. That's fine with me. You want to sweeten up your purse by selling some tickets? I'll give them to you. Cool. But it wasn't mandatory for my bottom line. And that business model is very similar to what Turki Alalshikh is doing, meaning we're taking it out of the hands of the fighters and making it so that we'll build a brand. You just come and fight, right? So I love it. I love it, and I think long after he's gone and I'm gone, this business model will be what revives boxing because it gives you a chance to showcase your ability. It gives the guy who's a no name a chance right now, not tomorrow, not after he knocks out a money guy, but today. He can fight right now. He can make money as long as you can really fight. As long as you want to fight, you can fight, and you're a spectacle. We're going to give you the views and the eyes that you need, even if you don't know nobody. All right, that's the way it goes. So I'm excited to see what he does. I'm gonna move on to another topic, right? Because I just was talking about it. Keith Thurman versus Fundora, man. Thurman, I think at this point in the game, I know he's coming back, trying to get himself back in the flow of things, right? But this is a tough ask, in my opinion, for Thurman, man. I think Thurman might have bit off more than he can chew, pause. But really, Fundora's a guy that you have to. I think you have to be special to beat Fundora, and that's not a hate on Thurman. I just don't think Thurman is it when it comes to his ability or his style. You know, he's a good jab, good right hand, but fights with his chin up just a little bit. One thing I will say that Fundora has, I mean, Thurman has to his advantage, should I say, is Thurman really doesn't get hit to the head all that much. The body shots that I've seen hurt Thurman in the past, right? So Fandora's 6'6". I don't think he's gonna throw a lot of shots to the body, even though he throws all over the place. But I don't think he's gonna throw a lot of body shots. It's not gonna be a heavy body attack. So from in that regard, I think Thurman has a shot there. But I think guys that are I'm fighting Fandora, even if you're a guy like Thurman who generally, is the taller or he's not a short guy. So he's not used to fighting like a short guy. And you find this problem with guys who fight longer fighters. If you have a style where your style is a boxing style, like Thurman's a stand up and down boxer, right? He doesn't have a style where he's a crouch fighter, he's a pressure fighter. And in order to beat Fandora, you're not going to beat him off your back foot, obviously. He can hit you while you're chilling, right? He has good length and he's a pressure fighter for a tall guy, which is crazy. So he's like Benavidez, right? So in order to beat him, you need to be in I think in fighting crouch position. You need to be taking the fight to him. And I don't know if Thurman can change his stripes for this fight in order to take the fight to Fundora in a way that neutralizes his length and neutralizes his activity. So uh, this is going to be a tall ask, but I'm interested to watch the fight. I'm glad he signed the contract. But like I said, when he took that picture for the fight, I said he looked like deer in the headlights. Like, what the hell did I just do? So it's gonna be fun to see, man. It's gonna be fun to see. We also got Virgil Ortiz versus Lubin, and I think that's gonna be a good fight. Lubin fought Fendor, and Lubin was trying his ass off, man. Lubin he was game as they come, but Fendor just broke his face. He messed his face up, and I don't think he's been right since. So Ortiz, it's a good fight for Ortiz because Lubin is a good name. He's a good fighter, but I think he's a little damaged still. I don't know how good he is still, right? And I don't like to say that about guys because, you know, obviously I respect the craft and I respect what they're able to do. I respect them. I got a gnat fly in front of my face. I respect them, but uh, he did take a lot of damage in that Fundora fight for sure, right? So Virgil Ortiz being a high octane offensive pressure fighter, I think he's going to look to damage Lubin early and hope that he can wear him down in the later rounds and get him out of here, right? Lubin, he's going to try to let the fight come to him, but I think in the beginning of that fight, in order to get your respect from Ortiz, he's going to have to he's going to have to stand and deliver earlier than he usually would, and the reason being is he has to let he has to let Ortiz know that I'm here and that I'm game and that you can't just walk me down and play with me, right? So it could be over early if he gets caught in an exchange while Ortiz is still fresh, or vice versa, right? It could be over early for either one of those guys because they both have good pop. But what I'm thinking is that the fight will start off high flying and high octane, and then it'll settle in somewhere around the fourth round. And as long as Lubin's not damaged in those first four rounds too severely, I think it'll become a chess match after that. And then you'll see, if he's not worn down, I think it'll be a good fight. If he gets clipped early in those exchanges, then I think it's over in about 7 or 8 Ortiz. That's what I'm thinking. So it really is. It's not a 50-50 fight. I think it's more like 60-40 Ortiz. But it just depends on how the cards are laid out in the first four rounds. Meaning, if he establishes himself, I don't think he can run. I don't think Lubin should run or try to take angles or just try to be a pure boxer early because Ortiz, his work ethic is there. He's not going to get tired. The only way to get Ortiz to calm down is to hurt him. You got to hit him. And if he's not, if Lubin's not doing that early, Ortiz will overwhelm him in about 8 rounds, I think. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be a good fight to watch. It's gonna be something that I think we can all, sink our teeth into. But I think that's how that fight will go. But I think it's over in 8 if it doesn't go well in the first 4 rounds for Lubin. I think it'll be over in about 8 rounds, man. Other than that, he got a lot of heart, so I'm not trying to take him out of the game. Like Lubin has heart and pop, so it's not just a easy win for Ortiz. This is a great fight for both guys. I think Ortiz is just perfect timing for him to fight a guy like Lubin. I don't think if Lubin doesn't take that Fandora fight a couple years ago, and he hasn't gone through the wars that he's going through. I think he has a much better chance of winning this fight. Right now, I'm looking at, hey, let's see what his heart is. It's just like cornerbacks in football. When they have their confidence, if they haven't been beat for touchdowns yet, and they still got that bravado, you know, you don't know really what they are until they get beat, and then you can see, can they bounce back? Do they have a short memory where they can just come back and act like that didn't happen? And we're gonna find out if Lubin's that guy, or will Ortiz put him in a position where he starts to get a little bit of that PTSD and say, hey man, I've been here before, right? I've been in this type of situation before. So you don't want him to lose his gumption or his grit in this fight. And that's what Ortiz is going to come in trying to do. He's going to try to make him remember what it's like to get beat on early, right? And Lubin's job is to let Ortiz know, hey, I'm still a game chicken, man. I ain't going nowhere. It is what it is. So, those are the fights that I think are coming up that are compelling to me, that I'd like to see. I will talk about the pound for pound rankings in the next video. I'll give that some credence. But the main thing I wanted to discuss is what Turki is doing in the game, and myself as well in Philadelphia. So it's like, I love the business model. I think that it's good for boxing. I love the fact that we get a lot more compelling fights, moving forward because of this. So for me, that's where I'm at. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this wasn't like too quick. A lot of y'all watching Thursday night football, so I understand that it ain't a bunch of y'all on here this time. Let me see. Paul says, before I go, I want to say, he said it's always been like that here in Philly. You are absolutely correct, Akoye. He said, you need to let me know about your fights. I still have the same cell number, FYI. Yeah, I'll hit you up, Paulie. Paulie used to, me and Paul was my landlord. He lived upstairs from me for a while when I was managing bars and strip clubs during my wild 20 eras, my 20s. So I've known Paul. He's like family, man. I've known Paul for years. He says, I agree with you, but I think Fundora took a little something out of Lubin. Yep. And he's not the same, but I could be wrong. I'm not surprised if I am. I said the same thing. I said, yeah, he went to war. So that's what Ortiz is going to try to remind him of. But you're right about that. But I wanted to make sure I got to you and got to your comments prior to jumping off. But I'm out of here, man. I appreciate y'all for joining up, and I'll talk to y'all next time on Akoye Knows Boxing.